So how do we know how many people are watching?
Yes, yes, yes. We've got the man, Mr. Joe Block, in the house, talking about disruption. What's the good word, my friend?
Hey, Doug, man, you're kind of the innovation disruption man too. It's just a little different aspect, I guess, huh?
I know, like as far as disruption goes, I get a lot of satisfaction out of it, and a kind of a weird and twisted
Well,
way.
here's the thing. We were talking before that, you were talking about screen to screen selling and all this other stuff. You were just a little ahead of the curve. And one of the things that people who are inventors or innovators find out is that the learning curve, the education part of the learning curve, is very expensive. And this emergency that we're dealing with all right now has forced us all into some behaviors that would otherwise have taken years for adoption. And it just has created this rapid adoption, which then of course caused Zoom to have all those problems because they weren't designed for millions and millions of people to use, families, dinner tables, and all the other stuff that's been happening.
I know. And it's kind of weird, but I totally saw this coming, right? Like, and I had this vision that at some point, because, everybody would be posting food, people would be posting just pictures. Like I knew like at some point it would just all be a huge video feed, right? Where you could kind of just scroll down and then and now we're here. We're like, how do you have time to be able to watch everybody's video?
I'll tell you something. I can tell you some of this stuff's not going back. I'll give you, for example, I had a doctor appointment tomorrow and I was supposed to go in the doctor's office. So they called me up and they said, we're confirming the appointment. I said, well, I was wondering if we're going to have the appointment. They said, we're going to do it on Zoom. Well, you know what? It's 30, 40 minutes to get to the guy's office, 30, 40 minutes back, and then the appointment, which is maybe 15 minutes. And you got to wait in a waiting room. I will never go to that guy's office again if I can help it. I mean, if we can do what we have to do like this, we talk, he examines what he needs to. I show him the thing, whatever I got to show him, and he goes, I can tell what it is. See you again in 3 months, and that's it, And I'll tell you, it's forever going to change the way that we interact.
Doctors, accountants, attorneys,
everything, absolutely everything. Yeah, everything.
Yeah,
but, the trick to disruption and the trick to innovation is really being able to figure out unique ways of using this faster than your competitors. And the truth is that a lot of people are having a hard time understanding this or getting comfortable with this or dealing with this in whatever capacity. And there are just some people who catch on faster. Those people are going to be leaders and they're going to emerge successful out of this tragedy.
Well, it's got to be hard. It's got to be harder, especially harder for the larger organizations, right? Who move a little bit slower when it comes to the decision making and being able to pass those decisions down, and something else new comes up in 6 months, or we have an event like this, so you have to quickly change gears. So the trend that they thought was like now is kind of displaced, and there's a new trend that kind of takes over. And just have to.
Well, I mean, listen, video is just one of 1,000 things. I mean, everybody's jumped on video. People are having dinner together. They're having cocktails and happy hours together. I've got more drinking friends all over the country than I've ever had before. I mean, guys are smoking cigars in the backyard and just turn on Zoom and we just hang out together. So it's the adaptation has been remarkable. And of course, Zoom could never predicted that, but there's 1,000 other things that are happening too. And the ripple effect is going to be remarkable. I mean, the fact that people start to telecommute, think about the implications. They're not going to telecommute 5 days a week because people like to be together and that it's very isolating to be in your house. But, there are going to be people who are going to say, I kind of liked it. I wouldn't mind to do this 2 times a week or so. So what companies are going to do is they're going to say, look, we can have half as much office space. We'll have the XYZ team come in on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We'll have the ABC team so that the teams are still together doing whatever they got to do, and they'll be together doing their thing. And then think about the implication of that, though. The implication is that they need less office space. The implication is that less cars on the road, less traffic, which is a tremendous benefit. Less global,
especially in Los Angeles, right?
What's that?
Especially in Los Angeles, right?
Oh my! I wonder if half the people would even make a difference if they had half as many. I will tell you, the roads are fantastic. It is the one great thing when you go. but just to continue, so half as many cars, half as much traffic, or let's just say whatever, less traffic. But that also means less people eating at the restaurants who are in downtown, with where all the buildings are. But those dollars are going to end up moving into the suburbs, so restaurants will be successful in the suburbs. So out of an arrangement like this, there are winners and there are losers. And the trick is to figure out what the winning side is going to be, think a little bit ahead. And that's why, I think a lot about the future, having spent my career in venture capital, hedge funds, and
Yeah.
investing in things as a professional investor. I think about what's going to happen next. What's the impact of this? And if you just ask the question, what's the impact of whatever the situation is? What's the impact of people not working in an office every day? Well, then you can start thinking, well, less people are going to drive, less people are going to be in offices, less people are going to eat at restaurants. But there's more, because that means that less people are going to be demanding oil. So that's bad for oil companies. Oil companies are going to be a big loser unless they can find a way to have alternative forms of energy, because we still need energy. It's going to shift. The demand's not going to go away, but it's going to move to something else. And that's really what the whole disruption curve is about.
Yeah, no doubt. I see the opportunity for processes that already exist, and then those are archaic, right? And so when you look at software companies, like startups, software companies, they're able to execute super fast, right? They've got an idea, then they're able to iterate off of that idea, make it better as it pertains to the customer's experience. Now, if we take that same kind of parallel over to organizations, how long do you think it'll take for some of these larger organizations to operate like software companies when it comes to executing on new ideas?
Well, understand the ecosystem of the innovation cycle. Little companies innovate, big companies operate. Little companies are great. Two guys sitting in a garage coming up with an idea. They're drinking some beers, or when they come up with a crazy idea, they start working on it, starts catching on. They start telling people, people start liking it. And then eventually a big company comes along and buys it for some substantial amount of money and rewards those young people for putting together whatever they did. But here's the thing, big companies are better operators.
Mm,
So, they have distribution. I did a webinar last week for a company that has 5,000 distributors. Well, I couldn't build a 5,000 company distribution network if I tried for the rest of my life, but they've already got it.
yeah.
So, if I came up with an idea, sold it to them, they could take my idea from this to this just because of their distribution network and some of the other things that they have. Not to mention they have capital, they have personnel, they have specialists in all different kinds of areas. So there are all kinds of things that big companies have going. And the mistake that companies make, in my opinion, is everybody tries to do what they think is the right thing instead of doing what really is in what they're really good at. And what they're not necessarily good at is putting their networks and things to work. And that's what they have to continue to focus on.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. So, what are some of the risks associated with not innovating at a fast pace?
Well, it's not even so much innovating at a fast pace, but there are people who are completely paralyzed. And I can tell you that the professional investors, the hedge funds, the private equity people, the people that control the money in our country, which is the business that I've spent my career in, I mean, they are already looking. They buy on dips. We're in a big dip. They buy on dips because that's where the money gets made. The money doesn't get made at the top. The money gets made at the bottom.
Mm.
You make money in investments when you buy, not when you sell. When you buy is when you lock in profit. When you sell is when you release the cash. So you want to double down now when things are slow. Figure out what the things are that are going to make sense for you. Think about what new opportunities this new environment has created. And instead of sitting around whining, moaning, complaining, and all the other things, and listen, I get it. People are nervous. This is a nervous time because there's been so much, upheaval that it's hard to, get your arms around it. But I will tell you this: there are going to be some significant winners. I mean, there'll be winners and losers, but there'll be some significant winners.
Yeah.
And we just have to pay attention to it.
So, if I was going to make an investment, here's a question for you now that I've always been thinking about, right? And I'd love your feedback on this is, if I was going to make an investment, would I make an investment in technology, or would I make an investment in my human capital, right? To empower them with skills so they can be relevant in this new age.
Well, that's I don't know that it's either or. I think it's and. I mean, I think you have to be looking at all different kinds of things. I mean, I don't think it's an either or kind of question. So you have to be light on your feet. Think about where, where the Wayne Gretzky said, where's the puck going, right? And you have to think about where the puck is going. And you figure that out by asking questions like, what's the impact of this thing that just happened? And then you skate toward the puck, and that's it. And you say, hey, listen, do we need our people to have different skills? Do we need different people? Do we need more people? Do we need more technology? What is the future need going to be? And that's why I think about the future a lot, because that's, we live here now, but what people are going to buy is in the future. And they may not even know right now what it is that you're going to come up with. It. People don't know what they want until it happens. But once it happens, there you go.
Well, I've been writing trends for the last, I guess, 15 years. In fact, no, you might not know this, but in 1999, I was in college, right? And in 2000, I introduced this concept called CD resumes, where you could put up your professional resume on a CD disc. And it was my first business that kind of operated out of college. And this was the first time you could actually put pictures and multimedia and be able to send it as part of your resume.
Yeah, I remember these virtual business cards, which is
right.
That's kind of the adult version of a resume, a business card. Actually, I would have advised you if I was your advisor back way back then. The problem with the resume business is your customers don't have a lot of money to buy your services.
It's true. It's true. Especially out of college, right?
Right. These
buy
are the
me some beer. Buy me some beer, and then I'll do it for you. That was the
right. I'll trade you a beer. But these virtual business cards and all these things, you don't ride trends and waves. You pioneer them, and that's a totally different thing. Very few people. I've been on the pioneering side too. In 1992, or actually 1990, we invented the concept of delivering stock quotes to investors by fax. So, my partner was a brilliant technician. He was a computer guy, an extraordinary guy. And what would happen is an investor would say, these are the 20 or 30 stocks that I like to follow. And I don't like looking at it in the newspaper because it's very cumbersome with all those pages. We would fax them a sheet right at the close of the bell. The bell would ring at 1 o'clock here on the West Coast, 4 o'clock on the East Coast. And by 5 o'clock, they would have a fax that had the pricing of their personally selected stocks. And I'm telling you, it was a hit. It was a huge, I raised $10 million for this thing. It was a huge, huge hit. And I ended up selling that company to a Fortune 500 company. And so I've been through the cycle. I mean, I'm not making this up as I go along,
Yeah.
But here's the thing. What I also learned, I learned a lot about the innovation curve. And that's why I said in the beginning, it's very expensive to bring a new idea to market. And that's why, it's easier now because of viral technology and digital markets and all the other stuff. But the thing is that bigger companies, if a little company can get it this far, the big company can take it the rest of the way.
Yeah. No, it's so true. It's so true.
Well, no, I mean, big companies don't have the skills. They don't have the patience. They don't have the scale. Like they're focused on selling billions of dollars, not hundreds of thousands of dollars at first that rolls into millions and then grow.
Yeah.
So that's why there's an ecosystem. Big companies operate, little companies innovate. We all have a place in the ecosystem and we work together, and that's what we do.
Well, one of the things that we've had a lot of conversations on voice assistants, right? Voice marketing for business.
I love your stuff, yeah.
And Amazon Alexa, and it's like when I first used this with my son Harrison. This was when he was 2. It hit me like a ton of bricks, because when I was talking to him and then having him get involved with using, I'm just going to mute her because if I say her name again, she's going to shout out. To see
actually, mine will probably start talking too.
Right. That's a hack, by the way, is to get other people's skill to do the talking for you. So
yeah, you can instruct it to buy somebody a year's supply of dog food or something that they don't need.
Right. Yeah, no doubt. But I could see his reaction on it, right? And I was like, you know what? This is what I'm gonna figure this out, right? I was never a software developer. I'm never in IT before, but I ended up like investing my time into it. So that was part of that like adoption curve. And now, holy cow, some of the stuff that kind of been working on is, and running into the same thing again, like even try to sell this in at a high level, because, well, why would people want to do that? Why would people want to do that? Why would people want to meet screen to screen when we can just show up in person? Like it's the same conversation.
Well, people are reluctant to try. I'll tell you what, the excuse of like if somebody came to their boss and says, would you mind if I work out of my house? No, that doesn't work. We tried it, it doesn't work. No one has that excuse anymore because it's working. I mean, number one, the technology exists. I mean, 10 years ago, even 15, 20 or longer, of course, the technology was so poor, it didn't exist. We didn't have proper bandwidth. We
Right.
didn't have programs like this. And the
Yeah.
ones that were out there were terribly expensive.
Right.
So, now everything is kind of in line and makes it possible to do this.
Yeah.
But um, people now can see that it works and people can be productive. There are some bosses, by the way, who run kindergartens and they need to keep an eye on their people. And if you're a person who runs a kindergarten, this is not for you. And if you are a person who's not a high level worker, then maybe this isn't for you. I mean, it really takes a lot of maturity to work in a self starting environment where you're at your desk at home. There's a lot of distractions. The family's having fun. You're not having fun. You're in your office. So it takes a lot of maturity, which not everybody has, for better or for worse, they just don't have it.
Yeah.
And so again, like everything, it's not either or, it's going to be a hybrid. Some people are going to be great workers by telecommuting. Some people just are not self-starters. They need to be in a bullpen with other people making calls together or whatever they're doing. And that's how it works, So I think we just need to look at it that way. And if we do, then we can kind of get a picture of what the future is going to look like, and then we can start monetizing it.
Yeah, it's interesting as far as how people are adapting to this. Different personalities. The socializers, right? The socializers are freaking out because they can't leave their house. Right.
Hey, listen, I'm having a really hard time with that part, but so what am I doing? I'll have a couple guys, a couple of my friends, we'll go sit in the backyard,
Yeah.
keep our distance, in the backyard,
Right.
and that's it. They don't come in the house, they don't touch anything. They,
Yeah.
and so we're following the rules, and we're not having 20 people over. I have like one buddy come over or something, but I mean, and people are having these Zoom dinners together and Zoom cocktail parties together. I mean, they're figuring it out. It's not quite the same, and I don't think it's a replacement.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, it's working, and it's proving that there's an alternative to getting in your car and driving, right?
It's true. It's true. And even like the analyzers don't want to put their webcam on, right? They're like, no, I don't want
Well, those are the people that have
to.
those are the people that have a face for radio,
Right. No, yeah. No, they're just shy, naturally shy, right? And I think kind of like how you show up through this environment too, says a lot about your personality.
Let me tell you something. I will tell you, I make a lot of videos. I do a lot of the stuff like we're doing right now.
Yeah.
And it took me a couple of years to get comfortable turning on the camera. And I will tell you a couple of secrets, some things that I did.
Yeah.
Number one, I made it very, very easy. So your laptop camera is terrible. Your laptop microphone is terrible. So if you're going to do this often, you need to get a standalone camera. And I have it sitting on a little stand. And I've got a standalone microphone that's right next to me all the time. And when I turn on Zoom or some other recording mechanism, I don't have to like move a green screen around. I don't have to reorganize the furniture in my office because I know that if I had to do those things,
Yeah.
I would never turn the camera on.
Right.
But I've made it so easy
Yeah.
that at least that part is now not an excuse anymore. Like the excuse can't be, it's too hard. It's not too hard. You pushed a button and now you're on. There are other things that are hard, having a stage personality versus a camera personality. Those are different. And you have to learn how to get comfortable because you can't see your audience. And a lot of speakers, guys like us that speak to audiences a lot, we draw a lot of our energy from the audience.
Yeah.
And when you can't really see them, and by the way, you don't necessarily have 100% of their attention. They could be sending emails, they could be, I don't know, filing papers, I don't know, whatever they're doing, but they could be doing a lot of different things beside listening to us. So in person is a lot easier. And interestingly enough, people think that they should pay less for a virtual presentation. Virtual presentations are harder than in-person ones.
Well, yeah, no doubt. And you think about too, there's the cost savings side of it, that they don't have to spend money to be able to have somebody come out. Um, These sessions, I believe, are more productive because if you're sitting around a big room or you're sitting in like a convention hall, you've got all the distractions, right? You have like, okay, what's going on in row five? Somebody did.
Well, listen, you've got a lot of distractions at home too. Like I'm going to turn my camera off and nobody's going to know what I'm doing. Like, and they leave, go have lunch, and then come back. So you have a lot of that same distraction. But I'll tell you one of the things: an advanced maneuver on Zoom, for example, is using breakout rooms.
Yeah.
I'd say most people don't know what breakout rooms are, and it's a setting and you can turn it on. But you have, let's say, 50 people on a call, and you say, okay, look, we're going to break into groups of 5, and then so 5 people can just sit around and talk, and then come back to the main meeting later on. And when you do that, that really brings a lot of the personalism back to the meeting.
Yeah.
Because like right now, we're having a nice conversation, very friendly. If you're one of 50 people sitting there watching somebody talk, or one of 1,000 or whatever it is, you miss the mano a mano, human to human kind of contact. But those breakout rooms are as close as you can get to actually being there and networking with real life people. And and the thing is that what people say is that one of the great advantages of these Zoom calls is that they can't smell the alcohol on your breath.
That's true, right?
I wouldn't say it wasn't true, man. That's you know what that
I don't know. I'm drinking Red Bull right now. That's probably not any better, but what are you gonna do, right?
hey. So listen, we could go on for a long time. We could talk, whatever. We could do this again, whatever you want to do. And
Yeah.
happy to share some thoughts. If you have any, if your listeners and your friends, family, fans, whoever they are, have questions about strategies for disruption, so we just kind of scratch the iceberg here, scratch the tip. We'll do it again with let's take some questions from some people and do it again.
Yeah, no doubt. I'll tell you one of the things that I'm most excited about. This is like my vision starting to kick in. Remember, it started on the development side. Is when you look at Brady Bunch videos, each one of those becomes its own live stream channel. Now think about that for a minute.
How does that work?
So if you when you have the website open, right, or the tool open, now it's like, okay, we think about sports like ESPN. There can be 5 different games going on at the same time, right? So instead of
what's the impact of that? There's an advertising impact. I mean, there's a lot of impacts that
huge. You have subscribers, right? You have a different way of being able to attract the subscribers.
Okay, so let's think about this for a second, because there's winners and there's losers. And the networks who carry the baseball games may not be the ones that carry the live streams. So now there's competition for the fans, and they've got contracts. I mean, so there's a lot of issues to resolve. But I will tell you that this opens a lot of doors. And I'll tell you one thing that happened yesterday on Easter Sunday. The Pope was standing in the Vatican all by himself, and he did a mass for all the people. And they live streamed it to millions and millions of Christians and Catholics all over the world, I guess, whoever was watching. And I think that a lot of those people think about it from a PR point of view. I mean, why should only 1,000 people get to go to the Vatican and enjoy that ceremony? I mean, so what happens is this opened the door for millions and millions of people to have a better Easter, a better family holiday with their family, and maybe you give them things to think about or talk about or ideas to kick around at the dinner table. And now everybody gets to share that. So think from a PR point of view, the engagement that happened, that the Pope was able to draw all these people in and be excited about him. But I will tell you also, that means that the personalities of the people who are leaders they're going to have to up their game, because video, like TV in the 50s and 60s, when President Kennedy was elected, that was a personality play, and he was one of the first to use TV.
Yeah, no, it's interesting you talk about the shifting, right? The shifting of the different models and how there's going to be winners and losers in this, right? I mean, if I think about it, which church service do I want to watch? And I have access to 6 of them on demand. That's going to determine where I give, right?
It absolutely, yes, it does. It doesn't replace going to your neighborhood community environment and being with your friends and the people that you spend time with.
Yeah.
But for special holidays, to have an environment where you can see the world leader talk and share, and share ideas and give you things to talk about at your dinner table.
Yeah.
I have to imagine that the engagement yesterday might have been higher than normal. I'm
Yeah, no
just
doubt.
guessing,
Yeah.
but this as I look at that, I see that in a big way. So you and I have a lot to kick around, and we should keep doing that.
Okay, my friend. Well, hey, I appreciate you jumping on like this. It's always a pleasure talking innovation, disruption, technology, and and cocktails.
Hey, and let's plan to do it again. What do you say?
All right. All right. Big round of applause for my friend Joe Black. Woo!
You're too much, man.
All right, my friend. Have a nice day. I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.